Okay, hey everyone. This is ResearchHub community call. Another week, August 1st, and we just finished SciCon just about a week and a half ago, so now we're getting out some of the post SciCon things and making sure to pay out all the proper awards to everybody. And Cole finished editing actually the last video for the event. And then Anton put it up on YouTube, and so we'll have some social media posts going out to that tomorrow to make sure that people get exposure who weren't there at the event. So yeah, I guess the first topic that we can discuss is kind of an important one, which is going to be on the bounty feature. So the bounty feature seems to be fairly successful, and I think this is something that like ResearchHub team wants to really emphasize, and they want to invest a lot of time and energy into like fleshing out this whole bounty feature. It's really versatile, and I suppose like the topic that I wanted to kind of bring up to everybody would be what features or what things do you think should be built around the bounty feature for it to have maximum success, essentially. So whether that be like features or like improvements in discoverability, how to build out those improvements, etc.
What do you all think about possibility of crowdsourcing the rewards? So for example, I could join the bounty and throw some RSE on top so that I can make it even more.
Isn't that already a part of it though?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
I guess what happens if you support someone else's bounty? I don't think it adds up.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I think what you can do is you can support somebody's response. So if they answer it, they get paid the bounty, and then if you're a third party, you can come in and just add just a regular support to that person's answer if you really liked it. But I think that's different than beefing up the actual bounty, because that's before the answer has already been given. So it's further incentivizing, an answer to come your way.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Anton.
Yeah, I second that. I think that's a great idea to further incentivize.
I think, Cole, you may have mentioned this also, I think last in some meeting that we had, which was to
in the editors meeting.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, to like kind of supplement what was already thrown out there. And then another one that I was thinking about, and we could probably go about this different ways, is partial payments. So currently, with how my experience has been with D-Work, some people will say there's a bounty up there for a blog post, and they complete the blog post, but it's maybe 40% really complete. It wasn't fleshed out with certain ideas and examples. And so maybe they didn't deserve the 5,000 research coin, but they deserve 2,000. Like a way to implement partial payments, I think could be very important. I don't know how you guys were thinking about going through something like that.
Yeah, I mean, probably. Instead of just having it'd be better than, yes or no. The difficulty might be, well, it's worth like laying it out and seeing how it works. It could be, you don't want a norm of partial payments.
Mm-hmm.
So like that becoming a norm could be a problem. But yeah, I think it's worth just like trying that out as well.
Could there be like maybe a toggle for the bounties? Like you can post a bounty that is binary, yes, no, answers a question, doesn't answer a question. But for more complete things like writing a blog post or perhaps compiling a meta-analyses or something like that, you could then have the option on those.
That's a good point. Like if it's a black and white kind of easy answer, not easy, but like straightforward answer, that's like a full on or nothing bounty. And then if it requires like a summary or like you're requesting somebody to peer review something for you, then maybe that can be a partial. I think I like it. I think one thing from the developer side is making sure that the UI UX on something like that isn't like too difficult to make the leap that that's, that's the options that are available. But I like the idea.
I think as from the submitter side, I don't think there needs to be anything extra other than specifying it in the description. Like, oh, if there will be an incomplete answer, I am thinking about giving a partial reward. And from the payout UI sense, I think it just can be when you click on the answer that you want to award the bounty, it just gives you several options. Give full credit, give custom amount, and then you can select between 0 and whatever is in the bounty left over, or give nothing, whatever, cancel. And basically, yeah, after you do the partial credit, it will subtract it from the bounty, and everyone else will see the leftover of the bounty. And so it's dynamic in this case.
Yeah,
A good way to build more accountability into the structure would be having people vote on whether the payout for the work done is fair based on like the work that's open. And then you could use that to either like affect reputation or have like a bounty reputation, which will like affect the probability of people doing work with you in the future when you put out a bounty.
I like the separation of bounty reputation versus your full reputation, and maybe it gets threaded into the equation for the full reputation, but a separate bounty reputation where, hey, I'm great at answering questions, I can answer whatever you need, but maybe I haven't spent a lot of time uploading papers and talking about papers.
Yeah, or whatever else, speculating on papers or whatever else.
Yeah,
It can be like a transactions statistics that everyone can see in your profile, like my past 2 bounties, I paid out this amount, and on average this is a percent of people who were satisfied or felt it was fair.
So would that be on all bounties, basically, just to say like, hey, do you agree that this person awarded the right answer, for example, too?
oh, I see what you're saying. Is it or only on like contentious like bounties?
I mean, you could have people flag it in case of partial payments, or I don't know. That's weird. I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah, maybe not full-blown reputation, but at least some sort of feedback form, so that, I don't know, people can submit a short comment that will be not visible for anyone except for the original poster, so that they can see that everyone is not satisfied.
Okay, let me jot these down.
So another thing I was considering about the bounties was the problem with lengthy assignments where you commit to it, and then even if you work nonstop, it will take you maybe a day to complete it. And so the problem with that is, what if several people simultaneously start doing it, right? And then several answers are posted at the same time. And let's say I'm one of the posters, and I see that someone else already did all this labor, and if I knew that ahead of time, I wouldn't even bother, right? Because just efficiency.
So there's no option to claim the bounties right now,
or like pre-claim bounty. I was gonna propose some sort of a task list kind of thing, so that you can see the bounty, you can click the plus sign or whatever, and then your face essentially is going to be listed under the list of people who are currently working on it or are thinking about it.
So if that's the case, though, to make sure that the person putting out the bounty doesn't have their time wasted, there would have to be sort of a function where, depending on the bounty, if it requires like a week's worth of work or something like that, or even more, then the person claiming it will have to maybe produce some material within a certain amount of time so that they don't like waste the person's time too much, that sort of thing. Because if it's like this may not be something we want to consider doing anytime soon, but I think some kind of mechanism for making, if we're going to have it so that parties can claim it and say, I'm responsible for this, we have to make sure that, since the bounties expire in 30 days anyway, we have to make sure like somebody doesn't claim it, sit on it for 30 days and then not do anything. But I'm not, we could also deal with that through reputation or something.
Yeah, I think it for the first time it's going to be really hard to create this matching mechanism. So I think we can start with something simple.
Yeah.
This interested list, right? So just a public list, or at least the list that a poster of the bounty can view with all the people who have expressed interest in fulfilling this bounty, so that they can at least connect with them. Not that there is a
choose which one they want to do the bounty for them.
Yeah, but they need to see who wants to do it first, right?
Yeah. I like that a lot, actually. The interested and then choice. That's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, Colt.
Well, Malik had his hand up first, so.
Okay. All right, Malik.
Yeah, either way, anyone of us can go. But yeah, I was saying, like, if it is like a big task, like, I don't know, like a big poster, or somebody wants to write a review and has put a bounty on it, and it's a big bounty, like 10,000 RSC or something, then maybe whoever claims it also puts a deposit or something of, I don't know, 100, 250 RSC or something. So they feel like a sense of responsibility that, hey, I have, and then nobody else can claim that till that deposit. And if they fail to produce it, then they lose the deposit or something. I don't know. I'm just talking about like a big bounty when you are saying the work is so much that it may take weeks, and it's just some safeguard mechanism against that.
I think the simplest way would just have it affect your bounty reputation, but because if you have how do you do it for somebody who has high reputation, small amount of money, just starting with the bounty system? That's a potential limitation there. There might be like design around that. But I like the idea of keeping them accountable some way. And I think it's just a matter of thinking through what the best way to do that would be.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's an interesting point to bring up, but alternatively, like, I think that just a simple, if a bounty is posted, you could just put a comment like, I'm working on this, FYI, if you want to maybe work together, hit me up in a DM or something. But ultimately, like, I kind of think that worrying about if people are working on the same project at the same time, like, is maybe a little bit too much to worry about. Like, you just kind of have to let the market for talent and content really just determine itself. And if you're also working on somebody but you're a little bit slower, I'm sorry, but there should be maybe you should have mentioned like, hey, I'm working on this in some way. But I think you can do that through a comment, so that way you can try and collaborate, or just do it.
I don't know, Cole. I think Anton's idea about having like an interested and then the party like picks it, I think that would be a better way of handling that problem than sort of like depending on people to say it. I don't know. That's kind of my view on it.
Right, especially because we are very critical about simple comments, right? Like +1 or I'm interested.
Exactly.
But we don't want to multiply those.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good, Cole. I guess like tangential to some of the bounty stuff. I think one thing that I've like had trouble with is discoverability. So being able to really see who's even like you could filter by questions, but there's like some that maybe someone put up in the neuroscience hub that I didn't even see. It never like made its way through my feed in any way, and only like 6 or 7 days later, was I able to find those. So throwing it out to everybody, what do you think would be some of the better ways of improving discoverability of the bounties, especially if that's something that we really want to run with?
I mean, we just have to like make it really prominent on the first page, right? On the homepage. Like, how else would you do it?
Yeah, maybe even next to trending newest open access and just another tab is bounties.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking. Do that, but then like the the banner at the top, right? As people are getting used to that, getting used to the fact that we have bounties, I think you just want information there talking about the new bounty feature.
Do you
'Cause
think like a cycling banner type of thing too could be good?
But yeah, potentially, yeah, just like sort of, you know, I can see other ways of designing that might be good. I think it's worth like maybe like the design folks that we have, maybe they can
Yeah,
think
we
about
can
that.
talk to Ted. Yeah, to
Yeah.
see what kind of ideas he can throw out there. I guess like outside of discoverability, once you're already on the website, what mechanisms do you think we can improve discoverability of the bounty? So for example, one thing they have when you put up a bounty is a quick and easy click where it'll auto post something onto your Twitter for you. But I think we're like all pretty familiar. I mean, a lot of academics do use Twitter, but I'd say a majority, like the lion's share of academics are using their email. And that's something that I came out of SciCon with. I remember somebody made a comment that we need to meet academics where they're at, someone from the women in Web3. And so I thought I took that one, like it kind of resonated because I went on to go and ask some of my other colleagues and I said, hey, I told them about ResearchHub, they're not as active and they're like, oh, I have to open a new communication channel on Discord and I have to go. And so they're entering into the world of Web3. And so I think if we can try to bring the bounties over to the world of academia in which they use email, I think that's one thing that could be improved.
Agreed.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys can think of, like outside of just, bundling up bounties and sending it in an email that could be good?
Wait, I don't. What do you mean bundling them up and sending them in? Just like the ResearchHub digest type thing?
Yeah, like a digest, like roll up of like the last, I don't know, 5 bounties that opened up in your hub. If you're interested in, and it'll have maybe, just like the RSC amount that the bounty is sent out in an email. And then, if you're interested or you're like, oh, I know, bounty number 2 very well. It'll take me a little bit of energy to output a lot of resources for this person. Then, yeah, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think both, right? I mean, I think we can do both social media and email. There's not really much of a downside from my perspective.
Okay.
Unless we think it's going to be spammy, but I'm not sure.
Satvik just messaged saying we discussed automatically adding them to Craigslist, etc., or Web2 aggregators on a previous call. That could help as well. Do you feel like a lot
Craigslist?
Yeah,
Craigslist is just like scams.
Yeah, I would feel a little suspicious. Like, oh, they're promising me some research coin. What is that? But yeah, but maybe something like outside of like Craigslist, but an automated upload to somewhere. I think probably something like Reddit makes more sense, right?
Did we post Brian's bounty on the Reddit channels? Do you know?
I personally I don't really use Reddit very often, so
Okay.
I'm not sure. But yeah, something like that. If there's like a kind of high profile bounty that's out there, but we also don't want to kind of like select for or like kind of filter for what we think is for high profile or whatever. But we can upload kind of whatever bounties onto Reddit. Are there any other avenues you guys think that we can go through outside of Reddit?
Can we post on ResearchHub?
We can post on
Sorry, not ResearchHub. Research. Sorry.
we could double down and post it again. Yeah,
that with way too much confidence.
No, yeah. ResearchGate would be another, I think, really great avenue to go down. I'm not sure if, do you know if ResearchGate filters for like commentary? I'm not sure if they would feel weird that we're kind of directing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I was kind of. I mean, we could try, but that seems like pretty sketchy. You know, I don't know.
yeah, I think it's a great idea because it's the exact audience that would be interested in wanting to answer something like that, except they would get paid for it on ResearchHub and not on ResearchGate. So,
If you're ResearchGate, would you tolerate that?
yeah, I don't know if it's within their like policies and their rules, then maybe they're okay with it. Yeah, we'd have to give it a shot and see.
Because we would be offering a service that they already offer on their website. Just you get paid for it. So it would be like, leave ResearchGate, come to ResearchHub.
It's worth a shot. It's worth a shot. Satvik also said dedicated Facebook groups. I guess I'm like, do people like frequently use like Facebook groups in academia or like even biotech or pharmaceutical or something like that? I don't particularly use it, so I'm not sure if this would be a good option.
It probably also depends. Like people might use Facebook way more in India versus the United States, and that might be why Satvik is proposing it. You know, academics, let's say. So it probably depends, and that's something we probably might want to look into.
Okay.
Yeah. That's true too.
And older demographics, yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah. Are there any other comments on like the bounties, whether it be new added features or discoverability that anyone wants to bring up? Okay. Awesome. Then we can I guess move on to the next topic that I had, and then we can go into like a miscellaneous kind of open forum afterwards. And this kind of goes into the discoverability of, I think, just ResearchHub in general, outside of just the bounties, which is what are really like the best ways. And I know we've probably talked about this a bit before, but maybe to like double down on it is, what are the best ways to like gain exposure or go and connect with academics or biotech and pharmaceutical like personnel. So, one thing we talked about before was conferences, getting to conferences, but if that's something that we feel is really important, what steps do we need to do to get to having like a viable like representation at a conference? So we need to have, a pamphlet, a demo, we need to have a way to register for the conference, which conferences to go to, etc. So anyone have any ideas?
I think if we're going to do something like conferences, we need to, like, somebody basically needs to do the research, right? To figure out like what we would need specifically. Yeah, so.
I mean, also going to conferences requires money. Like, is that something that is within the budget to buy a table?
Because ResearchHub Inc. can't pay for that. Only the community Research Hub would be able to. And if ResearchHub Inc. does pay for that, it's not clear that the members of the, like, us community members would be the ones that they could pay to do that. But it might also be worth talking to, just like bringing it up, having Patrick bring it up with Brian, so they could talk to their lawyers about it. Because if they have the editor program set up as a grant program and have us doing work for tokens, potentially they could extend the grant program to be, representing ResearchHub Inc. Or representing ResearchHub the DAO at conferences. So it might just, I would say, like, having people research what it would entail going to these conferences, and also having Brian and Pat talk to their attorneys to see what the best way of doing that might be.
Do you think, like, I guess, like, taking a step back would be, what do you think is the most high fidelity thing that we can do to make sure that we're interfacing with academics and biotech pharmaceutical employees that there's like a small pocket of scientists that know about ResearchHub and Web3 and crypto, and then there's like a flood of people who don't quite know about Web3 and crypto, but they're all scientists and academics. I guess, would conferences be the highest fidelity thing to recruit those people, or should we take a step back and say, hey, highest priority thing would be X, and then conferences would be somewhere down below?
So I can think of two contexts in which you would have a lot of academics in a small place. One is a conference, and the other would actually be on campus. Now, you work in a lab, so how do you think interfacing with these people on campus, like how would you go about interfacing with these people on campus? And do you think it would be better potentially than the conference?
If you're thinking about stuff on campus, I think that would have to be something that's considered shortly, because I think one of the best places to do that would be like a club fair at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So that way you at least get people's attention, and maybe it sucks, but maybe the first few just don't do a lot, but really increase exposure. And that sort of trickles outward.
Yeah, I think club fairs was what I was thinking in my head too, if we were going to go down. And I think Satvik, what he brings up about conferences kind of also pertains to on campus, which is like, it's not super scalable, but I think it's like a pretty decent place to start, or maybe not to start, but it's I think a mid-tier one. Another one that maybe we can do is, personally, we have seminars. Like as a PhD student, I have like mandatory seminars that I have to be at, and sometimes they make little announcements at the beginning of those seminars. So maybe we can leverage some of those consistent seminars from each of our different institutions, and just make an announcement at the beginning.
What about making just an ad and running a marketing campaign on the internet as well?
On Twitter.
Yeah, on Twitter. Like if you just paid to have it visible to more people and your target demographic.
Now, my concern about doing an ad on Twitter is the website's not ready. Right? Like if you click on notifications, it takes you to a 404 page. There are a lot of like small things. So I would be concerned about like introducing it as a finished, because when you're advertising on Twitter, you're entailing that it's a finished product, which is not.
I mean, you could also just say, hey, we're still building this out, and just put it out there in the ad. Like, be part of the alpha group of people that are building out this DSci project.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Satvik?
Yeah, I agree with Edwin's point that we need some features that are completely built out. And in addition to that, ads and conferences, they are sort of growth hacks that will be an additional layer on top of the growth that ResearchHub should organically experience once we have some features that that people naturally tell their friends about. I think that's what we should ultimately try to aim for, and then everything else would be just on top of it.
So you're saying wait till we have like a better product market fit before doing any large scale kind of marketing or advertisement. So I guess,
yeah.
Okay.
Because then that's just failed money. It won't make any sense to advertise a product that people won't talk about afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So then do you think a good starting point, open to everybody, I think the better starting point then would be to not pay money to do something like that, but just kind of in a free manner, kind of go to different campuses and see if you can kind of present or advertise, and then it will get some small subset of those people coming in enough where we can figure out, is there like retention of users with the features that we have? Do we have a small bit of product market fit? And then the next step would be kind of the larger scale things.
Yep, that would be much better. And then the people who come in, like the fresh set of users that come in, we will also be able to track what they are using the most. and then we can double down on those features in whatever ads we create, for example.
Perfect.
Yeah, agree.
Okay. One thing that I've been seeing, shout out to my fiance who was watching the TikToks next to me. But she was watching some TikToks, and there's a lot of like these like 30-second to 1 minute like just overviews of different topics in science, or maybe they talk about a specific paper that's a little bit controversial or contentious. So it's kind of like, Cole, what you do on YouTube, but just like even shorter form than that. I'm wondering if there's like a kind of marketing spin we can do where instead of doing a paper, it's actually just somebody using a feature on ResearchHub, and put it out there in the world and see if anyone's interested in a feature more than like particular scientific content. I guess, Cole, I direct this to you.
Yeah. Cole.
Yeah, you could. I would be interested, number one, to see those TikToks because I just haven't found them myself, but I also haven't been using TikTok as much. You definitely could dedicate marketing time to making videos and things on other platforms, but I think that as well, like there's a plethora. If the idea is just to make a bunch of content and kind of push that out to generate interest, like some of it will be features, some of it will be talks, probably. Breaking up the SciCon into little, not clickbaity bites, but like particular bites, because there's hours of work there that we can just cut into little tiny bits and take insightful comments or things that are said and then post those as small bits of media across Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok. Like
Cool. You could make a really cool video though, somebody like claiming a bounty and then like going into Dexter's laboratory and doing something crazy. Like, so there's space to be weird about it and potentially make it fun also.
No, throwing some campiness in there, I think, is definitely the way to go. But
It's also
Okay.
time.
mhm.
Yeah. I think the bites was cool. I was thinking about that when you had sent me that last video, or you said that the video was uploaded to the drive, and I was like, yeah. And I looked at the time, and I guess the time, I didn't realize it when it was actually happening, but it ends up being like it's like a 5 hour long video or a 4 hour long video, and so then there are really like awesome nuggets from each of the panelists or discussions that I think are important to highlight. Okay, yeah, actually, cool. Like, maybe we can all discuss like in another like meetup somewhere, like how to best go about something like that.
Sure. I mean, I can definitely take a look at that, but yeah, I'd be up for taking a look at dissecting that and also kind of growing it as a group thing, or at least setting guidelines for that, because I can't reasonably do all of that on top of everything else I'm doing in my life.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just some guidance for the non-media folk, and then we'll use like some of the manpower to help like kind of partition out certain things. Satvik.
Something actionable that we can do immediately is maybe put out a bounty for people to go through those 5 hours and cut it into snippets of like 60 seconds with very snappy editing. And we can give all of these sort of guidelines and then put it on Dwork or something.
Totally.
That's a perfect commentary. Yeah. There's a couple of members. So as you guys saw, that the Brian mentioned ResearchHub on Lex Friedman's podcast, which is like massive podcast. And there's a few people that rolled in, and one guy was like, I saw Brian mention ResearchHub here, and I'm really interested in being involved. and he said that he signed up for the D-Work page and things. So I think there's going to be like at least a chunk of people that would be interested in doing this. That's awesome advice, Satvik. I'm putting this up later today on D-Work.
The thing about it though is that was like a 2.5-hour podcast, and Lex didn't do a clip of something concerning ResearchHub. So I actually like cut up the 10-minute part from the podcast, and I'm intending to include it in a Twitter thread. But I think there might be other ways that we can use those 10 minutes that could be really useful from a marketing perspective as well. And it'd be cool if people, thought about that.
I think so. I was thinking about it too, where like there was a lot said in that 10 minutes, but there was like a particular like 1 to 2 minute like length of time where it was kind of like the real value proposition of ResearchHub was discussed. And I think if we can make that, I was imagining that as like a kind of quick like 50-second thing that people see when they're scrolling through Twitter or something like that. So yeah, Edwin, if you maybe like we can, you can coordinate with Cole as well to see what's the best way of compressing these things. How do you best upload it? Or
I made a few videos before. I know how
okay.
to cut up basic and upload basic stuff. So
okay,
and maybe I'll like put a clip of Lex like drinking after listening to Brian or something. I don't know. Have fun with it. So.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I'll get that. I'll do that as an action item for myself to put up that bounty on D-Work. Okay, that's the last of the scheduled topics that we had. Does anybody have anything else that they want to mention, or just we can kind of freestyle on some things if everyone has some time? Yeah, okay. If not, then yeah, we can probably end the meeting 20 minutes early, if that's okay with everybody else.
It's nice to see everyone.
Yeah, awesome. All right, have a good one, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.